अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, प्रोग्राम दूसरा रुख में आपको खुश आमदीद कहते हैं। मैं हूं जवाद अहमद सिद्दीकी। नाज़रीन, जमहूरी तर्ज हुकूमत का एक अहम तरीन सुतून जिम्मेदार, काबिल पहुंच और मुनसिफाना निज़ाम इंसाफ है, जिसको मौसर बनाने के लिए इंसाफ के तलबगार की अपने हुकूक और इसी तरह इंसाफ मुहैया करने वालों की अपने फ़राइज़ से भरपूर आगाही बहुत ज़रूरी है। इसमें दो राय नहीं कि पाकिस्तान में इन दोनों पहलुओं पर बहुत काम की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि अमूमी तौर पर इस निज़ाम पर, जिसमें पुलिस और अदालत शामिल है, आपको एक अदम एतमाद की कैफियत नज़र आएगी। और आगे बढ़ते हुए अगर आप देखें तो सिनफी इम्तियाज़ और फिर मुआशरती रवैयों की वजह से आपको इन इदारों में ख़वातीन बहुत कम नज़र आएंगी और नतीजतन इन इदारों तक ख़वातीन की रसाई भी इंतहाई महदूद है। खैबर पख्तूनख्वा की आप बात करें, जो तवील अरसे से दहशतगर्दी से मुतासरा सूबा रहा, वहाँ ये मसला और भी पेचीदा है। हुकूमत ने बहरहाल इस सूरत हाल को इदारों में इस्लाहात के ज़रिए बेहतर बनाने की कोशिश की और इस कोशिश में यूरोपीय यूनियन और अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा ने खातिर खा माली और तकनीकी हिस्सा डाला है। और जनवरी 2015 में तकरीबन 95 लाख यूरोज़ की मालियत का सूबे के 10 अजला में एक प्रोग्राम शुरू किया गया, जिसका मकसद खैबर पख्तूनख्वा में अवाम को अमन व इंसाफ फराहम करना और निज़ाम कानून को मजबूत बनाना था। इस सारे अमल ने पुलिस में क्या इस्लाहात आईं, अवाम के लिए बिलउमूम और ख़वातीन के लिए बिलखुसूस निज़ाम इंसाफ तक रसाई कितनी आसान हुई, आज के प्रोग्राम में हम इसी पर बात करेंगे। और उसके लिए मैं आपके साथ तारुफ कराता हूँ। वी हैव इन द स्टूडियोज जॉइनिंग अस हिज एक्सीलेंसी EU's एम्बेसडर टू पाकिस्तान, Jean-François Cottin. Very warm welcome to you. And also joining us is Program Manager from UNDP, Mr. Jahangir Khaidarov. Mr. Jahangir, very warm welcome to you. And from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Police, we have DIG Training, Mr. Syed Fida Hassan. Mr. Fida, a very warm welcome to you too. And before we commence our discussion, नाज़रीन, आपको एक झलक हम पहले दिखाना चाहेंगे कि रिवायती पुलिस ट्रेनिंग से हटकर जो केपी पुलिस में नए भर्ती होने वाले पुलिस एहलकार हैं, वो एक मुख्तलिफ नौइयत की तरबियत कैसे और क्या हासिल कर रहे हैं। सो ये रिपोर्ट आप देखिए और फिर हम गुफ्तगू का आगाज करते हैं।
रिवायती पुलिस ट्रेनिंग से अलग पेशावराना तरबियत हासिल करने वाले ये हैं खैबर पख्तूनख्वा पुलिस में नए भर्ती एहलकार। यूरोपियन यूनियन ने अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा के इदारा बराए तरक्याती प्रोग्राम के जरिए केपी पुलिस की पेशावराना इस्तागत-ए-कार बढ़ाने के लिए खतीर फंड से कई अहम मंसूबे मुकम्मल किए, जिनमें सवार पुलिस ट्रेनिंग स्कूल भी शामिल है।
पहले जो पुलिसिंग थी वो रिवायती तरीक़ों से हुआ करती थी, उससे उसका जो रिज़ल्ट होता था वो पुलिस पर नेगेटिव पड़ता था। UNDP ने जो हमारे साथ वो LOA की है, उसके मुताबिक वो हमें तकरीबन कोर्सेज़ करवा रही है। अब तक तकरीबन 22 कोर्सेज़ कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग के हवाले से यहाँ पर कंडक्ट की जा चुकी है।
पुलिस स्कूल में ख़वातीन के लिए अलग सेंटर भी कायम किया गया है, जहाँ रिहाइश समेत बच्चों का डे केयर सेंटर भी बनाया गया है।
बच्चों के लिए तमाम टॉयज़ वगैरह सब कुछ मौजूद है और इधर हमारे रूम भी बहुत अच्छे हैं, किचन वगैरह हर चीज़ हमारे पास मौजूद है इधर।
यूरोपियन यूनियन के ताउन से सवात के रहीमाबाद और खुजाखेला थाने समेत सूबे के 37 पुलिस स्टेशन को मॉडल पुलिस स्टेशन बनाया गया है, जहां मेल और फीमेल के लिए अलग अलग रिपोर्टिंग रूम, रिकॉर्ड रूम, इन्वेस्टिगेशन सेल, कंप्यूटर्स और आवाम के लिए वेटिंग रूम भी बनाया गया है।
मीटिंग हॉल बनाए हैं, तफ्तीशी अफसरों के लिए जो कमरे बने हुए थे उनको पर्पस बिल्ड किया है, उसके साथ साथ उनको जो रिसेप्शन है उसको इम्प्रूव किया है।
यूरोपियन यूनियन ने तनाज़ात के हल के लिए कायम DRC के 484 मेंबरान को कानूनी दायरे के मुताबिक तनाज़ात के हल के लिए ट्रेनिंग भी दी है, जबकि 2742 पुलिस अफसरान को जेंडर रिस्पॉन्सिव पॉलिसी, क्राइम सीन की तहकीकात और IT की तरबियत भी दी गई। कैमरा मैन काशान अरशद के साथ सिराजुद्दीन, डॉन न्यूज़, पेशावर।
So, Your Excellency, before we talk about the project specifically, could you share with us a brief history of EU in Pakistan and also reflect on strategic mandate of EU for Pakistan?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this program. We have been in Pakistan for the last 33 years, and actually our main objective with Pakistan is to make sure that Pakistan becomes a prosperous country, a democratic country, and that also contributes, to the regional stability. in the region. So that is our main goal here, and we are engaging with, you know, the government of Pakistan, but also the civil society, the business community. So we have a very holistic approach, actually, our relationship with Pakistan. And when it comes more to cooperation, so assistance, I would say, to Pakistan, we focus on three main areas: education, rural development, so community-based mobilization in villages and communities, and rule of law, governance, public finance management. So those are the three main elements of our cooperation, which, by the way, I would like to mention, is going very well, both at federal level, but also we work, obviously, because of the 18th Amendment of the Constitution, we work a lot with provincial governments as well.
So you spoke about the key areas that EU is engaging in Pakistan. And talking about this program, Mr. Jahangir, which essentially is strengthening rule of law program in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, what were the key gaps in rule of law scenario in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's context, in your findings?
I think, first of all, thank you for inviting for the program, and we are very proud of our partnership with Pakistan and KP Police and with the European Union. And particularly, I'm thankful to Ambassador because the interventions that you saw, he visited himself personally, traveling to Chitral, Swat, Upper and Lower Dir, Hangu, and we are very thankful. In terms of gap, as you know, the program was designed as a response to post-crisis needs assessment that was conducted in KP by the government and international communities, and EU was one of the first jointly with UNDP to respond to this program. And the program was designed to support the government of KP to re-establish trust with the people and community. And I think we're seeing the great results after 5 years of interventions, because rule of law in KP improved. We are now seeing the change of the police from policing with authority to policing with consent. The trust through the interventions that were done jointly with KP Police in the European Union on establishing model police stations, you know, improving access to services for women, basically the dormitories that you have seen, and the women desks at the police stations, community policing, that all brought the change, and we're seeing this change. But of course there are a lot of issues ahead to address, but the gap was that crisis that hit and decreased the trust of the people to authorities, in case to law enforcement authorities. So it's gradually now changing.
Improving the situation.
Improving, yes.
Would you say these gaps identified by UNDP in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa affected communities at large prior to implementation of this project? Mr. Fida.
First of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about reforms carried out in KP Police during last 5 years. And here I must say that KP Police has always it has a history of being a people-friendly police. But the reforms which were carried out during last 5 years have really changed the face of KP Police, and to make it from a police force, to transform it from a police force into a police service. So right now we are a kind of service providers, biggest service providers to the people. And that was all made possible because of the reforms carried out and because of the support of our international partners like EU, like UNDP, and they supported us in our initiatives, and right now we are in a better position to serve the people in a better way. And here I must say that the reforms carried out by KP Police had 3 components. And first of all, it was basically structural reforms, then capacity building of our officers, and then community engagement initiatives like community policing. And the basic purpose of carrying out of all these reforms was to build public trust and for better service delivery. And we have been able to achieve those objectives, and that was visible in a survey conducted by reputable organizations in 2016 and 2017. And KP Police was marked as the best police organization in Pakistan. So that's a great achievement. And that was all made possible because of the intervention by our partners, by international partners. They have been partnering with us for almost 5 years now, and we are still coordinating with each other, and we have carried out these reforms.
Your Excellency, I see that the building up public trust has remained at the core of this project. So could you please share a few successes of this program as you see them?
Yeah, actually I've been, as it was said by my colleagues from UNDP, I've had the chance to visit a couple of these projects. And I think what is really important for me is to see how this program and the work of the KP Police with support with UNDP has been focusing on people who so far did not really have access to police service as it was put by the IG. Actually, I'm referring to the women, because obviously we know in KP, due to social and cultural setup, it's not easy for women to go out of their home and to go to report to the police. And I think thanks to this program, thanks to the dedication of the KP Police as well, and there was clearly a political drive, a political push behind that. The program has set up, elements such as policewoman desk, where women can go and feel much more comfortable, obviously, to report
to women as gender-sensitive policing.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that is key, because we are talking about half of the population. That's it. So I think it's really important to make sure that this half of the population can have also access to the police and to the services provided by the police. I mean, I think two figures, I think, which also I think it's quite revealing, is if I look at the percentage of policewomen in KP today, despite, I would say, the drive which has been behind that, it's 0.7%.
Very low.
So it's still very low, so there's still a long way to go, but we are on the right track.
But these I think that is important. Statistics Absolutely. After the program. So Absolutely. It was even lower before.
It was probably lower before that. So I mean, and we have seen that it has an impact. If you look at the justice sector, it's 5%. So again, I mean, and it's clear, I mean, it's not only in Pakistan, it's everywhere. I mean, a woman will be more comfortable to report on domestic violence to another woman than to a man. There is no doubt. So I mean, it's very important to have it in KP now.
So moving on, Mr. Jahangir, was there an aspect of the program that involved engagement with judiciary? And if yes, how has this engagement with the judiciary been like?
Yeah, the program is designed, we work with across the justice sector institutions.
Okay.
Engage with law enforcement, judiciary, prosecution, prisons. And in terms of judiciary, yes, the formal justice mechanisms are very important, because after police cases, the investigation, the case goes to court. So we're trying to address the whole chain so that people are relieved from this burden. And I think the courts play a significant role in Pakistan and in all common law countries in the region. There is a fundamental issue with the case backlog. It's not only Pakistan, this is the nature of the common law system, adversarial system. So we're trying to address, and I think court automation and automation systems, ICT technologies can help this to break this gap. I think that's the way. And of course, the judiciary plays an important role, and we see the improvement. There's a criminal justice coordination committees that chaired by the session and district judge, where all the members of the justice sector institution.
And was this the concept of the program?
Yes.
Introduced by the program?
No, the concept was, introduced by the Pakistan Law and Justice Commission. We supported those committees, but my point was the membership of these committees include the police, the prosecution, prison, bar council, NGOs who are working in the sector. So they all collectively make efforts to improve access to justice.
Fair enough. So we'll take a short break here. नाज़रीन, एक क्विक ब्रेक लेते हैं और फ़ैदा साहब के सामने उसके बाद हम ये सवाल रखेंगे कि जिन इस्लाहात की हम बात कर रहे हैं, इसने जो बुनियादी पैरामीटर है कन्विक्शन रेट, उसको बढ़ाने में किस तरह मदद किया है, सो बात करते हैं इस पर इस ब्रेक के बाद. Welcome back, Nazrin. So coming to you, Mr. Fida, do you think the project's focus on engaging judiciary and enhancing capacity of police has resulted in increase in conviction rates in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa?
Yeah, it has definitely helped us in achieving that goal also, because if you see our figures, the conviction rate during last 3 years has improved a lot in both terrorism cases and normal crimes. So we have been able to achieve that target also, and we are on an increasing process, and that's increasing day by day with each passing day. And then here I must mention that here in Peshawar we have a dedicated police school of investigation, where specialized training is being imparted to police officers in all ranks, including our female police officers. We have even female police trainers also who are there imparting training to our regular police officers, and that has helped us a lot. And apart from this, I must say, as mentioned by His Excellency, the ratio of female police officers in KP police was very low. And because of these interventions, we went out to community, we reached to targeting girls' educational institutions. We went there, we run special outreach programs with the help of UNDP, and with that initiative we were able to increase the strength of female police officers from 300 up to right now.
Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Fida,
police officers
would you say that a number of women reaching out to police has also increased after these reforms?
Yeah, that has increased, and that has increased definitely. Though it's not that much ideal. Ideally, it should be around 7,000. But right now, we have crossed the mark of 1,000 female police officers, and that's a great achievement. And that all was made possible during last 3 years. And then here I must mention that we have with us here and female police officers who have been trained as female commandos. We have trained 2 batches of female police officers and as lady commandos, and they are working out in the field. They are operating, they are as good as male police officers. So that was all possible because of all these interventions.
Fair enough. So, Your Excellency, how did EU gauge that communities' trust in police and law enforcing agencies increased during the period of this time?
I mean, there are different elements. I mean, I would like just maybe to react also on what you were saying on the legal side. I think also what the program has been doing, and I think it's very good, because you were saying about the backlog that you have in your system currently. Then, you know, there was the support provided to the alternate dispute resolution councils, so which are a kind of formalization of the traditional jirga, if I can put it like that, you know, where you have for small civil dispute, you can settle them in this kind of now more formal jirga, which are called dispute resolution centers. So a number of them have been set up. I visited one in Mingora. Yes. People have been trained for that. And then, you know, it's very easy. People can come here, they have a dispute about a boundary of a wall or whatever, and that will be sorted out in a couple of hours, even less than that. So I think that is also very important, because it shows to the people that they can sort it out, dispute in a very short time. You remember that in Swat, for example, one of the reasons why at one stage we had these extremist groups, I mean, Taliban coming in Swat, was because justice was not provided to the people. So that was one of the reasons actually driving some of these groups into Swat. So I think it's really important to bring also justice at community level, where people can see, okay, then now I can, you know, it's easy for me.
I have a forum that I can access, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So His Excellency spoke about alternate justice systems, right?
Yeah.
So, but we know these activities can be very sensitive depending upon the context. So, Mr. Jahangir, if you could tell us how did community react to such interventions or improvement of this alternate justice mechanisms?
I think what Ambassador is referring is the Dispute Resolution Council. It's a very unique concept which is rolled out in KP. It's rolled out by KP Police. They took initiative numbers of years before, and it's now part of the KP Police Act.
Okay.
So it has a legal background. There's elected members from communities. What we have seen, they're usually very respected, retired, justices, retired civil servants, retired lawyers.
And then people from civil.
They retired from that community.
Okay.
And there's a forum that police established, the community forum.
Through their police act, basically.
Yeah, through police act, because they need some legal background. But I agree with Ambassador. Now, instead of going to court or hiring a lawyer, which is very expensive, costly, timely, they can refer case, and it's always when the parties agree.
Okay.
So if the parties agree, they go to the dispute resolution councils, usually for petty crime, petty disputes, like, you know, what, as Ambassador said, the boundary wall, the access to water, some small disputes that naturally we have every day in our society. So they go there, if they agree and they have a peaceful resolution, win-win situation. If for some reason they don't agree, there is still they can go to court. So it's an alternative, as Ambassador pointed, alternative to the formal. Excellent mechanism. We see number of cases growing. If I'm not mistaken, annually there was around 20,000 cases that were these councils were, and they established all over KP in all districts by the police department themselves.
Okay, so that is basically saving time, energy, and money of the community. Yes. Right. So, Mr. Fida, I would specifically like to talk about facilities that were introduced for women police recruits in this program. And how would you say, are these women police recruits actively using these facilities? I'm aware of this women's dorm in Hangu and child care facilities. Are they being used to their full potential now?
Yeah, they both are fully operational, they both are fully functional. The dorm there in Police Training College Hangu and Police Training School Swat, they both are functioning. And you can see, personally I have visited both the schools, both the facilities. I have seen kids playing over there and their mothers getting training in the schools, and that's, you know, it's a very unique thing to see such it's a very pleasant surprise for all of us to see kids playing in the playing area and their moms getting training. So, you know, more and more female police officers, they were earlier they were very reluctant to join training, to go training because of their family compulsions, because of their smaller kids staying at home, and now they can carry their kids with them to the training facilities, then their kids can stay there and they get their regular training in the academy, in the schools. So that's, you know, that has encouraged a lot more our female police officers. They are coming to get training from these facilities, and that has been made possible because of these two facilities in PTS Hangu and PTS Swat.
Glad to know. So, Your Excellency, this brings us to a very important question, I must say. Sustainability plans, for example, for such dorms or model police stations that were made during this program, and other structural and technological developments during this program. So, what are the sustainability plans now?
Okay, I mean, let's be clear. We are talking about public domain. I mean, obviously, here we are, as European Union, we are, with our colleagues from UNDP, we are supporting initiatives which are already taken by the KP government. Obviously, the main bulk of funding is coming from the taxpayer of Pakistan, obviously, and it will continue like that. And then after, it's a question of political priorities. I mean, we will be there. I mean, we can discuss that. We are going to go for another program in the next year, which will be probably bigger, still on rule of law. But my point is, it's just funding which are facilitating, you know, what is already developed by government, in this particular case, the government of KP. So it's a political priority. How the KP government is going to decide, you know, if they want to continue to put, I would say, a very strong push, yes, political push behind, you know, police reform, getting more women. Our colleagues in Peshawar were saying, you know, today 1,500 women. The goal is to reach 7,000. So do you put the financial means behind that? We will put a little bit from our side, but, you know, the bulk will be coming from the government as well, obviously. So that is it's a political decision at the end of the day.
Government has to be there all along, obviously, for this program or police reforms to flourish. So coming to you, Mr. Jahangir, since we're at it, talking about women police officers, so what would you say the key behavioral changes have been say specifically in women police officers and in general in male police officers owing to this program?
You know, this the access to justice and to services for women, it's always a challenge. Not only Pakistan, as Ambassador already pointed, if we reach out to women, it's half of the population. And I think what we see, as statistics shows that there were 300 police officers 5 years ago, now 1,500 now. When we started this intervention, there was only one practicing lawyer in SWAT, woman lawyer. Now we have around 40 women lawyers practicing in SWAT. The change happens because there is opportunities. There's established infrastructure, and because women are started visiting the desks, the dormitories, and in the families we see the change because their husbands and relatives, they're supporting this because they also bring income to the families, which is a crucial part of their household. I think this is the change we see. But the numbers suggest that we are still there, that we need to put more efforts. But the first steps are being happened. And one of the innovative approaches jointly with VU we're thinking is to work with police officers in their families, so-called the program called Ibn Police.
A quick break. We need another break है. नाज़रीन quick break लेंगे और फिदा साहब के पास एक दफ़ा फिर जाएंगे और समझना चाहेंगे कि ये जो इस्लाहात अब तक हुई हैं, इनके नतीजे में जो बेहतरी आई है, पुलिस के एंड पर क्या विल है कि इनको सस्टेन कैसे करना है, इनमें इजाफा कैसे करना है. आफ्टर दिस ब्रेक. Welcome back, Nazneen. I'm coming to you, Mr. Fida. What would you say is the level of commitment of police now to sustain all these reforms and achievements, especially made during this project? And would you say it has something to do with the change in leadership of police ranks?
KP Police is fully committed to sustain these reforms and to carry them forward, and which is visible from that we have trained our own officers also. We have conducted so many training of trainers, that's TOT training, and right now our own officers are, they are also imparting training to our own officers, our constabulary and other police officers. So we have the capacity and we have the commitment and we are ready to carry forward these reforms and to make them sustainable, and so that we can continue with these reforms. It's basically we say that it's basically first step. We have to go a long way, and we are committed and we are ready to go a long way.
Fair enough. So Your Excellency, are there any plans for scaling up the project now in other provinces, other areas of Pakistan, for instance?
I mean, this program is going to end at the end of this year, 2018. And actually in 2016, in a meeting we had with the former advisor to the Prime Minister on Foreign Affairs, Mr. Sardar Aziz, he specifically actually requested the EU to see how we could support, because at that time we were already talking about the FATA reform on merger to KP, how we could look at how to support, the need to rule out the rule of law from KP to FATA. So at that time we said yes, and since we have been working with on a new program that will follow the current one with our colleagues from UNDP, so which will build on what we have been doing with KP Police so far. For KP, the big KP now, including FATA, but also in Balochistan.
Okay.
And in both provinces, we are very pleased because there is a rule of law roadmap which has been devised by respective provinces. So it's a good guidelines for us on how we want to put this program forward. So yes, there is, and we are going to put quite a large funding, because it will be around 3 billion rupees into this program. Yeah.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Jahangir, what would you say about it? Because the KP merged FATA definitely has a different context than the broader KP. So, what strategies or approaches would UN be adopting for former FATA now?
Absolutely, as Ambassador just pointed out, that this expansion could happen only on the results of the positive results in KP. Strategy that we probably will be looking is combined approach, because we need to work at the policy level as well. Now with ex-FATA merged with KP, the certain policy regulation should be adjusted and amended so it covers now a larger region. Our main concern probably will be that the KP institutions, the pressure on KP institutions in terms of training will increase. And this will be the challenge that we will be discussing both with our experts from EU and KP police, how to tackle that, because the number of trainings now will be increased naturally by the geographic expansion. As Ambassador pointed out, the rule of law roadmaps in Balochistan and KP are there. So now we need to add the FATA part to the KP rule of law roadmap at policy level. That will be the work, how to prioritize the quick actions so the people have access to justice and services in FATA as soon as possible after this merger is announced, and how to support the government to roll out what we have done in KP gradually to FATA and probably use it in Balochistan as a model.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Feda, towards the very end, how would you comment on this? Does former FATA pose a different sort of challenge for these reforms?
Yeah, that's a really challenging situation for us, for KP police also, but we have made our own contingency plan for training, for recruitment and for going into FATA. We have already made our own plans. Our officers we are meeting on daily basis. We are deliberating with each other. We are interacting with elders from FATA, and inshallah our plans are ready. And we have also side by side we are going to increase our training capacity also. Right now at present we have the capacity of imparting training to 11,000 officers in a year. So we have definitely to increase that capacity also. From 11 we will definitely go to 15 to 20,000, so that we can train officers in a year around 20,000 officers. So then going into FATA, and it's a big challenge for us, and we are ready to take up this challenge, and we are fully prepared, and we hopefully whenever the government decides, we will go with full preparation.
Very thankful to you, Mr. Syed Feda Hassan, DIG Training, KP Police, joining us from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Very thankful to His Excellency Jean-François Kotha, EU Ambassador to Pakistan, and Mr. Jahangir Khaidarov, who was Program Manager from UNDP. Very thankful to you. So नाज़रीन, जो प्रोग्राम में हमने बात की है बुनियादी तौर पर ये इदारे हमें बता रहे हैं कि केपी में सूरत हाल पुलिसिंग की हो या निज़ाम इंसाफ की हो बेहतर हुई है, लेकिन इस पर भी इत्तफाक है कि इस निज़ाम को अगर बरकरार रहना है या बेहतर होना है तो उसके लिए जो पॉलिटिकल विल है या मकामी हुकूमत की तरजीहात, उसका नेमुल बदल और कोई नहीं हो सकता। आज के प्रोग्राम से इतना ही।